Hi, I'm Eric Summerer, and here's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week.
Hey folks, welcome to the Dice Tower News for June 3rd, 2013. We're in June. The school year is over for many people, or it's about drawing close. Summer is here. Summer is often a vacation time for people. For us here at the Dice Tower, it is one of the busiest times. 3 conventions in a row coming up. Origins is next week. Dice Tower Con, is in July, and then Gen Con, the mega convention, is in August. So lots of things to look forward to. But this week I'm excited for a couple reasons. One, I mentioned it last week and he debuted on our channel last week, but we have another reviewer who has joined the Dice Tower videos, Game Boy Geek. He's taking a look at different games, especially one of his specialties is taking a look at older games, and he has some superb video editing skills, so I hope you check those out as we post them. The second thing I'm excited about is this coming Thursday. We are starting a brand new podcast at the Dice Tower called Board Game University. Now, this podcast is different than the other podcasts that I've done, and I'm really pumped about it. What we're going to be doing here is, in the Dice Tower podcast, in our videos and stuff, we're always looking forward. Look at this great stuff that's about to come out. Wow, wish, bang, boom. And that's cool, and that's neat. But in this game, we're going to be taking a look back at the past. This is a podcast in which I'll be spending 20 to 30 minutes talking to designers and publishers and people involved in the board gaming industry and saying, what's the story of your success? What did you do? How did you get to where you are? And then what tips would you give to game designers? If you are an aspiring game designer, you most definitely want to subscribe to this podcast. You will find more information about that. We will launch it on our website. If nothing else, you'll be able to find it hopefully at boardgameuniversity.com. And so I'm very excited about that. We'll be releasing one every Thursday, but to start things off with a bang, we'll be releasing 3 of them at once this coming Thursday. Which guests will we have? Well, I already know who they are, but I think it'd be more fun for you to find out about them. You can always find out more information, of course, if you go to our guild. If you go to dicetower.com and click on forums, it will take you to what's called a guild at Board Game Geek, and we have great threads there. You know, if you comment on YouTube's commenting section isn't as good as I'd like it to be, and I don't have a chance to respond. But if you post there is a fantastic community of people who will answer questions and respond back to you. So those are some exciting things that are coming forth from the Dice Tower this week, and we got even more exciting things next week, but I can wait till next Monday. I also should point out that if you noticed last Friday, I did not do a what came out last week type thing. And that's because only 2 or 3 games came out, and none of them were even that big of a release anyway, over that past week. So what I will be doing is, anytime that happens, I'm just not going to put anything out that Friday. And then I'll just catch up with that stuff on the following Friday. So this Friday, you will see what came out this past week's sort of segment from us, okay? Top 10 list from last week, top 10 tips for game designers. Oh, there's so much goodness, but let's get to the board game news. Strongly that next week, when Origins happens, and the week after that, we'll have a whole lot more board gaming news, because there's not a whole ton this week. A couple Kickstarters to note: Princes of the Dragon Thrones, from the folks who made the wonderful game Alien Frontiers, Clever Mojo Games. That's coming out, or that's on Kickstarter right now. Fantasy Flight released the rules for a Gear World. There's another Kickstarter out there for Among the Stars, which is one of the games that I'm keeping in my collection. Enjoy that one, a drafting game where you're building a space station. And the folks from Victory Point Games announced a new expansion for For the Crown, which is the deck building game that mixes chess, I have it here somewhere, here it is, that mixes chess and deck building together, which is an unusual combo. But now they're going to make it 3 to 4 players. I'm actually suspicious of this one, because I thought the game worked really well as a 2-player and don't see the need to make it for more players, but I could be wrong. For the hot story for the week, I noticed that on Kickstarter, there is a project right now for a documentary on board gaming, from prototype to publication, basically. This is done by Douglas Morse, and it's called Adventures on Tabletop. And he has some footage here. He's gone to different conventions and has some pretty good ideas. I'm kind of a sucker for documentaries in general. I'm definitely a sucker for board games, and this is not the first board game documentary, but hey, there's always going to be room for more of them. So certainly it's something that I'm interested in. Thought you guys might be interested in it too. Check it out. reviews this week, and next week I'm going to be at Origins, so I'm going to be taking all the reviews that I reviewed this week and posting half of them this week and half last. I said I'd post several reviews last week, and then I posted some that you probably weren't expecting, like the Netrunner review. But any game here on the top shelf seems pretty fair game. This is my games to be played and reviewed shelves. And it looks like the ones in the bottom two shelf, you can look for some of those games to come out also. We also have some other board game reviews from our team, so look forward to lots of great games this week. For the Dice Tower Network this week, Ludology number 57. They talk about goals. What's the objective that a game is trying to get you to accomplish? Plaid Hat number 94 talks about growing pains. Their company is now 4 years old. Started out very small, obviously getting bigger. How have they handled that? D6 Generation talks with Mark Martin from Malifaux Games, and also they talk about the Iron Kingdoms RPG. Hex Encounter number 13 talks about the iOS version of Zulu on the Ramparts and their dream war games. Geek All-Stars number 54 has an interview with the president of Cryptozoic, Corey Jones. And the Party Game Cast number 10 talks about Cosmic Wimpout, dice party games, Martian dice, zombie dice, and things like that. The Dice Tower, we have a new podcast coming out where we talk about games in which you can be mean and nasty to other players. Our top 10 games there. And like I said, don't forget to check out Board Game University, which will be coming out this Thursday. It's always interesting when you put yourself out of the internet. You know, I have to be cautious because I can't really say, well, how dare you criticize me, when my job is mostly criticizing games, you know, and I will say that some games are horrible and that some games are great. But it is a very interesting experience when you do that, because whenever you offer up opinions, no matter what you do, you're going to get a response. And I think it's very funny when the same week I will read a comment by somebody that says, Vasel, is there any game he doesn't like? He likes everything. And then when I post my 3 or 4 negative reviews that week, every single one of those people jump over, even reviews that I thought were fairly positive, maybe showed out some negatives, and I had one review where both the designer and the publisher came in to explain to me very patiently why I was pretty much incorrect in the review of their game. And so it's an interesting experience. You know, people often talk about when you review games, what are you swayed by? Are you swayed by the fact that you want free games? Well, that's so ridiculous, and I've already talked about how that's just crazy. The amount of work that you put in for review is worth way more than the value of the game. Because, I mean, you get the game, and if you're... I'm not doing this to keep games. I'm getting rid of games all over the place. And when I sell these games or get rid of them, however I get rid of them, it's for a minuscule fraction of what those games are worth. Because I usually disseminate them in my gaming group, or if you come to Dice Tower Con, you can get some there. But that's a small amount of money. For the hours and hours I put into each of these reviews, I could have gotten a job and made much more than the value of the game. But there's a more underlying current, I think, that would affect a reviewer more so than that. And that is the fact that in the board gaming world, I am friends with these designers and publishers. Not all of them, but I try to be. I try to be friends with all the designers and publishers I can, and it's great. They're such fun people. Their brains are so smart, you know, and we have the same common interests. Most designers and publishers who make games love games themselves, and so we'll talk about games. And we have a great time talking back and forth. So when a designer who is a friend of mine makes a game that I think just isn't that good, when I do that review, I'm thinking in the back of my head, man, I hate to say this about my friend, or the publisher, you know, I hate to say that about my friend, but I have to. But I'll tell you, that is to me, a much more of something you have to deal with than with the cost of a game. Now, I guess supposedly you could do it and just say, I say what I want, and I don't care what I say. And those people are kind of jerks, usually. The guys who seem to thrive and say, negative, look how negative I am. Yeah, then that's why people don't like to play games with you. But, I mean, you have to be negative. You have to say when a game is bad. But I think you have to do it in a way sometimes that you're not losing friends all over the place. And, I mean, even when I trash games, I'm hoping that afterwards I can still talk to the designers and publishers and we still can be friends. Just like if you trash my review and say how horrible my reviews are, that's fine, and I fully expect that, and then hopefully we can still be friends and not take it personally. Now, when you trash me as a person or trash my family, I mean, I am going to take that personally, but if you trash something that I've done, a video, or you don't like my podcast, or when my game comes out in a couple months and you don't like that, that is not me personally that you're attacking. And I always encourage designers, don't take it personally, but it's hard not to. So, what am I saying here? I'm not saying that, oh, woe is me, the life of a reviewer is hard. It's not. It's fantastic. I love doing this. But there's a reason a lot of people don't get into reviewing very far, because you do it and it's fun. And when you give glowing, positive reviews, people come by and say, yeah, you did a great job. And when you do negative reviews, though, you know that even if the designer is still your friend, it will always be in the back of their mind that you said that game wasn't that good. And the same with the publisher. And since a lot of reviewers, we go to conventions and we talk to people and see these people, that's an interesting dynamic. I will say that the designers, there's been a couple designers, publishers, and I just have destroyed some of the games that they've done in the past, and they've treated me very graciously. We go out to eat, we have a great time together, and I really appreciate that there's people. There's also publishers out there who will never talk to me again, because they feel that the review I gave their game was that unfair. But I have to be honest, and I have to do what I can with games. I try to be as kind as, usually I try to be as kind as I possibly can. But it's just an interesting dynamic, and just one that I think you folks should think about occasionally, how, as a reviewer, that is yet another thing we do. We're never going to be able to give you a perfectly objective review, and to divorce our... if I like a specific theme, or if I hate a specific theme, or if I like a certain kind of gameplay, or the time length, or there's so many different factors that can come into effect, and a good reviewer needs to divorce himself from as much of that as they possibly can, but nobody can divorce themselves from all of that and still be a fun human being. So, I don't know, interesting. Sure, some of you still out there think I never do negative reviews, and some of you out there think that I'm getting jaded. I don't know, maybe either way, folks, I'm telling you, some of the reviews that come out, there's some fantastic games on the shelf behind me. This is the to be reviewed, and there are some real dogs behind me too. Which ones are which? We'll watch the reviews. But either way, remember, when we review these games, we're reviewing the games. The designers of all these are fantastic people, whether the game itself is or not. Hey, I mentioned I was cutting my game collection down. Let's go to a new segment. One of the things that I talked about is that I culled my games this week. Went down another 100 games, and now I'm down to just over 300. And people say, which games are you keeping? So I'm going to start a new segment on my videos each week where I take a look at one shelf, show you the games I'm keeping on that shelf, and explain why. All right, first we have Action Princesses up there in the corner. I have that because my girls love it. No other reason. I think it's dumb. I hate it, but they love it. Then you see I have Cash and Guns and the expansion. I need both boxes to fit all those in. Great party game, works in every situation. Sunrise City, I love it. Thick tiles, building a city, a great theme. This is on the probably bottom of the 300 games that I'm keeping. In the bottom 40 or 50, this would be one that I would consider getting rid of. But I do love it. I don't know if I can cut many more games. Vegas Showdown, on the other hand, I love that. Building your own casino, lots of fun. Ave Caesar is simply one of the best racing games ever designed. Cutthroat Caverns is one of the few semi-cooperative games that actually works. Very mean and nasty game. Hint, listen to my list. Mage Wars is one of my favorite games of all time, so that was very easy. So is Wallenstein, a Euro game with the Cube Tower. Alhambra I keep. It's a good game, but I love the big box version because there's so many different expansions and there's 20 different modules that you can add. So there's just so much replayability. And Age of Empires is a worker placement area control game, which is just fantastic. So there you go. Shelf one. Why do I keep those games? Mostly because they're fun, and one because my daughters make me. And that's about it for this week, folks. Lots of things coming up, lots of reviews. Remember, all the board gaming news that you're not getting from me, you can find at GameBugle.com or Remy Gibson 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Subscribe to his podcast, Dice Tower News. It is a fantastic one, 5 to 10 minutes where he tells you about the latest news to come out. Oh, I'm so very excited about some of the things we got in the works, folks. There's some really cool things coming. More great new board games. Why am I talking to you? Time to get to work. Here we go. Board gaming. I'll see you soon.
To find out more about all of our podcasts, check out Dicetowernetwork.com. To see a listing of our videos, head to Dicetower.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cool Stuff Incorporated, where you can buy games for great prices. Cool Stuff in stock. Shut the door.